split this time. I think it's we've had the most votes in this election for those top two parties since 1973 or something yesterday. So it's a real shift in time. So yesterday I spent the day down in Bristol knocking on doors, and then I came back and as I was a candidate.
You have to go to, was it Wolverhampton you were studying?
We were both in Sandwell, so
okay.
We went to the counter in Sandwell and we waited for the results to come in, and as that was happening, obviously we were getting over our phones and talking to everyone else, this real surprise. So it was it was a fascinating night.
Okay, well that's good. So how did it go overall for the Greens? I know you're saying you've got one MP now, haven't you, as before?
Yeah, we really weren't expecting to make great gains.
Yeah.
The key for us was keeping Caroline Lucas, who I think is the finest MP in the House of Commons, and her majority increased significantly in Brighton, so she's got over 50% of the votes now, so we've managed to keep her. But elsewhere, we've been really squeezed. I mean, on the doorsteps, and as I spoke to lots of people, I spoke to so many people that said, we like the Green Party policies best, we really like you as a candidate or as a party, but we're so scared of the Tories getting their majority that we're going to have to vote for you.
Okay, so why would you say she's the best candidate, or the best MP in Parliament?
She's just so hard working, isn't she? She's up there first thing in the morning trying to get early day motions through and trying to bring topics into Parliament that otherwise would just be ignored. Trying to look after the most vulnerable people in society who don't have a voice, who don't have any power ordinarily, as in people who are ill or disabled or elderly, all those sort of marginalised people, and just bringing their voice to the table, to the House, and that's what Caroline's probably best at.
And she's known across the party, so that they have these votes and who the other parties think is the best MP or the hardest working MP, and she often gets that. I mean, the Sun newspaper voted her the most ethical MP in the House of Commons recently. You see her getting arrested protesting against fracking and things like that. She's putting herself on the line and has been.
Well, what is fracking actually? I've heard so much about it, and they've always said it's going to be the next big thing for all economies, America, UK, etc. So why is it? What is it about them? Obviously oil, but what's the negative point about it?
Basically, you fracture the rock underneath the earth and blast chemicals and boiling water into it, and it releases gas, methane gas, that's trapped in the rock. So it's a fossil fuel, basically. It's a very dirty, very poisonous process. It's very inefficient. You don't get much return, as in fuel back, for the amount of energy you have to put into it. But as is sort of proven all over America, where it's they've invested in it quite heavily, it's sort of poisoned the land. It's barren wasteland now. It's just scorched earth. The water in rivers actually catches fire. It's that poisonous, that toxic. And obviously in Britain there's not as much spare space, if you like, as there is perhaps in America, where there's more room. So you're talking about fracking under national parks and beauty spots.
You were saying it's not it's underneath the ground. This happens.
It's underneath the ground, yeah.
That's where the gases are, but you obviously have to build your infrastructure on top of that to be able to force. It's huge pressures that these cancer-causing chemicals are forced down, and if they get into the water supply, as Mark's been talking about, as has happened in America, then you end up with real issues. And there's also as well as the shocking videos you see of people being able to set fire to lakes and the water coming out of their taps. It's also
that must affect the fishing and the animals.
Completely.
And the amount of money you have to spend to get each unit of power out of the ground, of energy out of the ground. Well, you could just invest the same amount of money in solar and wind and tidal, and there's tons of that, and it's free. It's going to happen. It's always there forever. The sun's always going to come up. Why not invest in that for the future, forever, rather than waste money on this little side project that's going to be over in 10 years? It's
weird how you say it's got such negativity, but it's not public at all. It's no public knowledge on that. We've just heard it's the next big thing. It's great for the economy. It's this and that. But if you're saying it's got these pollutions, cancer pollutions,
the only way it can work economically is to be heavily subsidised by the government, by taxpayers. Otherwise, it's so inefficient, really, that it's.
And that's why I think the Green Party is so important, and that's why Caroline Lucas is so important, because the other big parties aren't pushing this agenda.
Quick question, Caroline, she's got double her vote. I think she had 30,000 votes in Brighton, was it? and I think 15,000 was it Labour second or Tories? I think it was Tories second that came.
I'll trust you on that one.
Yeah.
I don't remember the specific numbers. I know she got over 50%.
Yeah,
I think she's doubled her majority.
How come she's so good at getting her seat, and other Green candidates throughout the UK always struggle?
It's a slow process.
Yep.
You know, Caroline fought hard for that seat, and she won it on a very narrow majority because people were sceptical about having a Green MP. And the more time, you know, she won that seat in 2010, and then she, despite Labour really trying to take it off of her in 2015, she increased the majority. And now again in 2017 it's increased further because she really works hard for her constituency, and she's earned their trust. Elsewhere, people are always nervous that if they're voting for Greens, the Tories might sneak in, or some other party. So
the thing with Green politicians as well is that we're not funded by big business donors or by unions. The only way Greens get anywhere is through lots of hard work.
Yeah.
You know, getting out there amongst the public, finding out how people feel, knocking on doors, shouting people's arguments for them. So you know that if you vote Green, you're getting a lot of work for your vote because we can't buy it. We don't have the money to buy votes. We have to earn them.
Do you get anything from Greenpeace or other environmental charities that are?
No. All the fundraising is done ourselves, and is largely, as Mark says, from our hard-working members. Lots of £5 and £10 and things like that, and they all add up, you know, to allow us to stand in these elections and to try and get our message across.
Even so, also, we're very ethical about who we would accept money from.
Yeah.
We've had one or two big donors in the past wanting to give us money, but because we couldn't establish that was ethical money with tax paid on it properly and all that kind of thing, and we had to turn it down. We are quite serious about that.
Hi Jagmeet, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Nice seeing you guys again.
To see you. So how did it go yesterday then in Wolverhampton?
I mean, it was amazing. It was a really good atmosphere. It was good to be part of the process. It was the first time for me, like, getting to see behind the scenes, how professionally run it is. And, we were very thankful for the result because although obviously I didn't win the election, I always thought there could be a chance for a miracle. You've got to try your best.
Yes.
But from the 2015 election up until the 2017, the independent, so myself, we've had a 621% increase. So we earned every single one of those votes.
Yep.
And as the gentleman was saying earlier, it's very difficult to get even one vote these days because, everybody's, sometimes they vote out of fear.
Yep.
They're so fearful of the Tories. They think, I've got to get out there and vote for Labour, and and obviously Wolverhampton Southwest being a battleground for the last decade, pretty much. 601 majority, 801 majority. I was really happy to see that some of our campaign goals, we actually met them. There was an 11% increase within our ward of voter turnout, which I think is absolutely massive. Because one thing I was saying to everybody is, look, it doesn't matter who you vote for, but please participate. Because that's actually step one.
Yep. Yep.
Then step two would be to earn your vote and then gear it into the right way. So I'm thankful for what we've achieved.
I think you're right in some ways. I mean, the system as it is, the electoral system, it doesn't favour small parties or independents. It's very difficult to get through. If you take, say, UKIP as a good example, what happened to them in 2015? They got something like 4 million votes, a massive percentage of the vote. And for all those votes, they only got one MP.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I might not agree with UKIP politics, but that's a different story. In terms of fairness, you've got those 4 million people who voted UKIP, and they haven't really got any representation.
They had 4 million that they
I think
received.
it was 6 million, wasn't it?
In 2015.
15, yeah. I think
It's
now
crazy.
it was
And now it's gone just right down.
No, yes.
Well, that's one of the key stories of this election.
But I think that really points out to the fact that a handful of millionaires, rich businessmen, can influence policy, can influence the nation, and just steer it which way they want. Because as soon as they had achieved Brexit, they pulled their funding, their leadership ran, and now everybody's dead in the water.
Yeah. And this is one of the key things I really, really think that the public should be getting more upset about, is how much influence money has in our politics. And people only put money in if they think they're going to get something back. And politics should be that each one of us in this room has exactly the same say in the elections.
And
that isn't the case. Then? Yeah, completely. I mean, if you're giving the Conservative Party multiples of any other party, all the other parties combined didn't get close.
Even
to
more than Labour.
Oh,
with their unions.
Yeah. I mean, the 2 weeks that I looked at, and I can remember the statistics for, the Conservatives got more than 10 times that. And that's big businesses giving the Conservative Party something and expecting something back. Now that shouldn't be the case. You know, the Conservatives should be going out there and winning the argument, not taking the money and using it in all of the Facebook advertising and billboards and all the other things that they know. And the reason they spend their money on that is because they know it makes
I thought it was
a difference.
It was set. You're only allowed to spend a maximum amount per party in a campaign.
Per candidate you are, but you can spend it as the party overall on national.
But then they
spend
do
as much
things
as you
like
want.
bring Theresa May into it. So it's a Theresa May's national campaign endorsing the local candidate.
Yes.
So they can say, well, this is the candidate can say this has nothing to do with me. This is the Prime Minister sending a letter to her citizens. She's allowed to do that. But that's obviously campaigning for the individual in that constituency. So there's a lot of ways, like, you know, I've seen behind the scenes now, and they circumvent the rules for their own benefit.
Well, I think we'd be failing in our duty if we didn't today talk about the fact that, you know, the Conservatives, as Theresa May called the election, had 20 different MPs under investigation by the police, and that during
only one
this
was charged, wasn't it, in the end?
Yeah, one was charged.
The others were completely vindicated.
But the other. But if you look at the evidence, it's clear that it's clear to me that those, you know, that they. At best they weren't playing along with the spirit of the
The Crown
laws.
prosecution looked at the evidence and
they decided there wasn't enough to actually prosecute them.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that what they were doing wasn't morally wrong.
Okay.
And I think, you know, I think that again the public should be
when he
upset
says
about
morally
this.
wrong, it's purposefully wrong.
Yeah.
They it's not like they accidentally mismanaged. They purposefully knew what the rules are, and they said, you know what, we can get away with it. There's not going to be enough evidence to hang us. The benefits outweigh the risk. Let's just do it. And like the public needs to be made aware of this. One of the points that the Green Party candidate from my constituency yesterday and myself raised was that we need actually to relook at the whole system because it's not fair for smaller parties. And actually, with that mentality, when I say smaller parties, even Labour versus Conservative, because Conservative had a landslide victory coming into the general election. It was like Labour Party shouldn't have even run. That's how bad the numbers looked, you know.
Yeah.
But it's
obviously they had issues going forward.
But I'm saying, like, it's not. The point is that it's not that Labour should just put their feet up in the air and say, "Okay, we're done." Conservatives has this election. They have to fight because we need a strong opposition, and then us smaller guys, we need to fight because we need to hold everybody's feet to the fire. Because it's the policies that we're trying to push, the ideology that we're trying to push, that ultimately, if it's correct and hits the sentiments of the public, the bigger parties will steal those ideas.
And for me, I mean, I feel really vindicated as well as a Green Party candidate. I stood and I worked really hard in 2015, and I argued against various different Labour representatives who said that the policies we had wouldn't make sense and couldn't be implemented. And then in 2017, an awful lot of those policies have been adopted. I'm delighted by that. You know, I'm not in this to benefit the Green Party. I'm in this to benefit the country. Right. And so if the right policies are brought through, I am delighted. And I'm really pleased to see...
It also works the other way with the Looney Party. The raving Looney Party, they had a few years back a policy of one in and one out for immigration. And lo and behold...
That's a good policy.
Yes, it's come into fruition. Back then it was looked at as like Looney Party policy.
Yeah, it was made up for
and
a
now
joke.
how loony things have got, it's just mainstream.
I mean, how did Wolverhampton go then? You were Wolverhampton South, weren't you?
Wolverhampton South West.
So who won that seat in the end? Was it Paul or?
I was actually very happy it was Eleanor Patricia Smith.
Because we've got two Sikh MPs now. We've got Tanmanji in Slough, Labour, Preet Kaur Gill, Labour. So that's the first Sikh. He's a turban Amritdhari Sikh as well, isn't he? And we've got a woman, our first Sikh woman, Preet Kaur Gill. But it would have been good if you got. Don't you think it would be good if you had another seat such as Paul Uppal to increase, especially coming from a different party, not just Labour, which all Sikhs seem to vote for some reason.
I think myself going into this election, there was a big fear from the Sikh community that because we had 0 Sikh MPs, we didn't want another Sikh ruining the chances of any Sikh to get in. Now, for me, I'm not concerned about who is a Sikh, who's not a Sikh. Sikhi teaches us to see beyond race, religion, color, creed. We look at the value of the human being. So I connect quite well with the Greens, really, you know, because the Greens, like you just said in your own interview, that we care about everybody, you know, regardless of those things. So we connect with that. And Paul Uppal, unfortunately, lost this election by over 2,000 votes. So myself,
but if there's so many Sikhs in Wolverhampton, if they had, instead of being pushed towards Labour and yourself, they could have been push towards Paul Uppal, who's done quite a lot for the Sikh community.
Like, so Paul, there's two things. There's Paul Uppal the man.
Yeah.
There's Paul Uppal the politician, and actually then there's a Conservative Party. So just because he's a Sikh, I met the other day a Sikh man, turban and a beard, that was going for UKIP. He said he's a UKIP councillor. And then he had to justify how UKIP's not racist. Now, I'm not saying UKIP's not racist, and I'm not saying that man was racist. But I'm saying it seemed pretty weird to everybody involved that one ideology is like quite far from the other. This is about inclusivity. This is about money and themselves. You know.
But UKIP, I had the UKIP representative Keith Fox here. We talked about racism and nationalism and the difference, and his philosophy was, everyone's got their the way society is now. Either you're left or right, and it looks like now with anyone who's got any right views is wrong in the media. Like just as you're saying, anyone has this thing about immigration where they think we need certain levels, we need certain caps to protect our NHS, our schooling, and housing. It seems completely as a loony.
So what I'm saying is, I wouldn't pinpoint any individual because even the gentleman Rob Jones, that was the UKIP representative in my constituency, I got to know him, and he's a really decent man. Right? He was. He actually even told me, like after our live debate, he's like, "Look, I'm happy that we got Brexit, but I'm not happy with the way my party UKIP went about it because there's a lot of misinformation and lies. Basically, it was lies being told. So the higher-ups of the party, they're not doing the actual candidates any favours when they have to keep defending. So you mentioned a person that you had an interview with. So maybe that guy's personal ideology is not far wrong. It's fine, right?
It was fine with me, yeah.
Exactly.
His idea was one idea which UKIP, which I never knew, which always what they were see like one idea which is brilliant, which party should adopt. Tuition fees, Everyone says, oh yeah, scrap them, Labour say scrap them. Doesn't matter, we'll find the money somehow, which they're not going to do. But UKIP had a better idea with that tuition fees. They said it was going to be free for people that are doing medicine, engineering, science and mathematics, which is the stuff that we need for business and the stuff that's really important degrees and useful degrees. But all we saw them was as a party for immigration, about immigration, when they had such a great policy like that.
But you have to understand that they made themselves into that. They manipulated the conversation around immigration and made that because they knew that was what's going to get them the most votes. Because the people that are suffering out there, the common British man and family and woman that they're suffering, it's easy to point the finger at an immigrant and say, right, it's his fault. When actually it has got nothing to do with that. So it's an easy political manoeuvring.
I completely agree with that, and I think the problem that UKIP have got, and I completely agree with you. I've met lots of UKIP candidates,
decent UKIP people,
and they're almost to a person. They've been respectful and decent, and they care about the country. So I can't in any way attack them. But you look at the central party, and some of the messaging that they said is unquestionably to me racist. And so you have to be, as a UKIP candidate, accepting of those posters and those phrases.
See, this is the thing. That's your left ideology.
It's not my left ideology. If you say that you understand why someone wouldn't want to live next door to a Romanian, that is racist.
But maybe
if you say you wouldn't. But that's racist. And if I say I don't want to live next door to a Sikh person, that's racism. Choice, isn't it?
But then maybe I say I don't want to live next to a Sikh. A lot of Sikh people say they don't want to live next to a Sikh person.
Well, in that case, we're going to have to agree to disagree, because I think if you're saying that there is as a community, you think there's something wrong with living next door to a black person, a Jewish person, a Sikh person, or indeed a Romanian, I think that is racist and should be called out.
Okay.
If you're saying that you don't want to live near an unsafe person, a horrible person,
I completely agree.
That's based off. You can't generalize a whole community, because once we start doing that, we're not far off from the Nazis, really.
Exactly, and we had this situation where we had these attacks in London, and there was a Romanian baker that came out and was throwing baskets at the attackers, saving British lives.
But do you think that, like, for example, you're saying that the MP were obviously racist? They came on Question Time, and there was an uproar about that, wasn't it? But at least they had that freedom of speech in the UK, so everyone's policy's got their own views, and we can't.
There is a fine line there, though, isn't there, between freedom of speech and then getting into hate speech, where you're actively encouraging.
I think we just got a call now from the viewers. Hello, welcome to Sangit TV. Hello? Hello, welcome to Sangit TV. What's your name? Yep. Okay.
justice will be done. It's not a criminal offense we are electing someone to the House of Commons. It's the common people electing somebody. So we are not that of common people and do justice. If I give a word to somebody, I will treat it to the end of my life.
Yeah.
I will give my word to my father, to the Almighty, Lord, brings excuses. If I don't teach it, then I will suffer more. So we all want to go back home, and the best thing is to be humble and kind at home. And that's the only way to go back home. This is what the blue grandson says. I told my grandson. This person was sent to me, and to know the 16 birthday, he was young, and some was not until young. Until learning, from the teacher, from what was true. And the disciples, and going somewhere, Saturday, or coming down.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your call. Thanks a lot. So, speaking about being true to your word, Nick Clegg, he lost his seat, which in 2015, throughout all the debates, even though I thought, you know, like you're saying, I wanted to vote Greens this time round, if I'm being honest.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Good for you, man.
But I couldn't because I didn't want Jeremy Corbyn in.
Right.
But
which goes back to our earlier point.
Yeah.
Keep going.
But Nick Clegg, you know, he was the guy that I thought was honest in all the TV debates. He seemed to the point, for the man, and a truthful person.
You're saying Nick Clegg you saw as a
truthful person, the way that he was in the debates.
He was actually rated highly in the debate.
Yeah, he was really, the way he came across in 2003, compared to, we had Ed Miliband, who was, and Cameron was great at advertising and his speech and his manner, you know, giving that confidence. But Nick Clegg was a person that seemed honest with his talk. But you know, he lost his seat out because of this tactical voting. I mean,
it did do him his reputation and his party's reputation very much favours in sort of 2010, especially with the youth vote, when they campaigned that they were going to scrap tuition fees, quite famously, and then signed off on it as soon as they were in power with the Tories and agreed it.
If he hadn't gone in with the Tories at that time, he would have gone in with Gordon Brown.
Exactly, yeah.
And Gordon Brown was just, you know, a disaster. I remember when the Tories came in, the Treasurer left a note, didn't he, for the Tories and say, "Good luck, there's nothing here."
Well, allegedly, I don't know.
Yeah, which was a note.
But you know, I mean, it wasn't Labour that caused the crash. I mean, I shouldn't be a defender.
Yeah, I know.
Labour,
Their handling wasn't perfect.
It's a banking crisis caused the crash. Did Labour handle it as best as it could have been handled? Well, I guess that's up for debate. We'll never know. But I think they just had an unfortunate position at the time. And a lot of the banking crash that happened was caused by deregulation of the banks and giving them free rein to do what they want. At the same time, the Conservatives, when they were in opposition, were lobbying for more deregulation of the banks. And since the crash, they haven't changed any laws to prevent that from happening again.
In fact, they've actively lobbied in Europe to prevent that. Europe have wanted to increase the laws
We're
on
even
our
more
banks.
vulnerable to that kind of financial collapse now than we were when it was Labour.
Go back to the election now.
Yes.
Why did Theresa May call it now, looking back?
I think it's really important to look back, and I think, you know, I don't like to talk ill of anyone, but I have to say it was arrogance, because she had the opportunity. We've got, within 2 weeks from now, we've got the Brexit negotiations starting.
Yeah, 10 days.
Yeah, absolutely. And she decided that she wanted to increase her majority, that she had this opportunity, and she's put the country at risk. And now we've got a Prime Minister going to Europe, walking into that room knowing she's been shamed and that she's unlikely to still be Prime Minister by the end of the negotiations. She's not strengthened her position at all. She didn't do this in the benefit of the country. She did this for the benefit of the Conservative Party, and I think the British people have punished her for it.
Okay. But you don't agree with that?
I do agree with that.
You do agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, it makes her position now sort of, it's kind of untenable, isn't it?
But she's still staying, isn't she?
Well, the danger for her, won't come from the public, won't come from us. It will come from her own party.
Do you think if
they spy weakness, she's gone. She's finished. Yeah.
When do you reckon they can get rid of? Because now she's saying she's gone to the Queen. She's going to get a coalition with the.
There was a brief snippet on the radio on the way here of the I can't remember his name, the chap who chairs the 1922 committee for the Tories, who basically selects the leadership. And he was very cagey about what he would say, but there are people lobbying him from within the party because they're not happy with the results. So I think it's watch this space, really. I think there will be changes.
She's really hurt herself during this election big time.
Yeah,
I mean, if she would have just hung in the background, just run the country, nobody could have really said too much about her, apart from what they already were saying.
Yeah.
But she's proven herself now, undeniable, to be a weak leader.
Yeah.
If you can't even show up to a debate and defend yourself, I mean, the lady that she sent in to defend herself in the national debates, Amber Rudd, her father had just passed away. And she was literally grieving. And our Prime Minister thought, hey, I'll protect my own hide. I'll send a woman that's grieving in to defend me and fight for me.
She lost her seat as well.
It shows real political naivety, though, I think. You know, to do that, to not think that the electorate are going to punish you for that, to think that you're going to get away with calling a snap general election. It was her decision. She spoke specifically about being her decision that she took on a walking holiday. You know, she didn't consult the rest of the party. This was her decision. And then knowing that these TV debates would come up, to say, I'm not taking part in that, I think really put a lot of noses out of joint.
When is a lie a lie? Because how many times should she tell the British public, straight-faced, I will not call a general election. I will not call a general election. You know, six times. And it's not like, I'm thinking about it. There's lots of things to consider. Brexit had happened already. You know, so nothing had actually changed. And then, but apart from her political teeth came out and said, you know what, I can destroy Labour right now. And I'm glad that the British public are smart enough to realise.
If they're going to get rid of her now somehow, who could take over from the Conservative role, though? There's no real leaders that I've seen that have got that role.
Well, at the moment, Boris Johnson is 2-1 favourite with the bookies.
2-1 favourite?
Yeah.
You're shaking your head, Jagmeet.
You know, every time I hear his name, my blood pressure goes up.
I think he's quite funny.
But that's the problem.
He may be funny. He should be Boris the clown, not Boris the potential prime minister.
Maybe we need that sort of laugh, that humour, and you know.
Not in the Foreign Office, and not in Number 10. You know, it's fine to have him as a bimbling backbencher that occasionally goes on TV and causes people to laugh.
He might do well.
He might.
He'll get on with so many different countries because of the way
he's offended so many countries. You know, he specifically, especially in his journalism, he won a competition not long before he became Foreign Secretary, writing an offensive limerick with words that I can't say on this about the Turkish Premier. He's now Foreign Secretary, and he's meant to be the chief diplomat, keeping our relationship with Turkey. You know, it's
after he made those unfortunate comments in Sikh Gurdwara about whiskey, I ended up writing a whole article about his gaffes. Because I just went on the internet and researched it, and I said, I'm going to put this all together.
But do you think it was fair? You know, the comeback he got from the Sikh, speaking about whiskies in a
Whiskygate,
in a Godfather. See, the thing is, I know people say, you know, that he should have known better. He should have known better. He should have read up about Sikh religion. But our religion now, not religion, our culture now, if someone's got a turban, someone's got a beard, they'll still drink, they'll still eat meat. We can't, you know, you can't differentiate. A lot of Westerners come to me say, oh, you're going to invite me to a wedding, you're going to come this wedding, because they know it's just booze on the tables for free.
Right.
And you're going to get
if you would have made those comments in a Sikh cultural centre, nobody would have batted an eyelid, because everybody would have said, you know what, yeah, you're right, the Punjabi community loves to drink, loves loud music, loves a good party, right? Nobody would have batted an eyelid, right? Now, if I go to a mosque, or if I go to a synagogue, I go to a church, as a representative of the government, or even as just a citizen, is my responsibility to make sure I know not to offend anybody. Like when you come to Gurdwara, you have to cover your hair and take off your shoes. That's just common knowledge, right? I don't know what the protocol is in all the other religions, and so I know in my area, my Gurdwara, we have a certain way to act. So I want to make sure I go out of my way to ask, and before I open my mouth and drop a shoe out, I want to at least find out. And he did it nationally, and I'm not going to hammer him too much on that. What I'm still upset about is he refused to apologise about it. And how biased the media is, every media article you read, since Boris Johnson has apologised. But when you look at Boris Johnson's live interview, he point blank refused to apologise. So the media is very biased. The people don't get the right information, and it leaves the people like myself frustrated.
Okay. So speaking about this hung parliament, because a lot of people won't know what a hung parliament is, can you explain to the viewers what does a hung parliament mean?
Well, there are 650 MPs in the House of Commons, and whenever you go for a vote, it's whichever side wins, whichever side has most votes wins. So in order to have a majority, you need to have 326 MPs, so that if every single one of those MPs votes, you're always going to beat the other side. and in order to convince the Queen that you should be the Prime Minister, you have to justify that you can bring in those 326. Yeah. Now, in the lead up to the election, in fact, what the Conservatives had after 2015 was it how many more? Was it 10 more? They had 12 more. So they had 338 or something, which meant that they were going to have 24 more than the other parties combined. And Theresa May's called the election because she said she needed that number to be bigger. Now the Conservatives have got less than half. So no matter what they do, if the other parties side against them, if the other parties vote that they don't have confidence in the Conservative Party, they're always going to lose that. So they've had to side with the DUP and say, will you back us in all of our decisions to get their extra 10, which has just taken them over that threshold by 3.
Could you explain who the DUP are? Because I've heard some controversial policies that they've got that might not go down with the British public.
Yes, well, they're one of the Northern Ireland parties. They've got 10 seats, and they're the Democratic Unionists. So in the they very much are pro-Britain. They're the Unionist party, and they're also very much known. They've got a very Christian, some see as fundamentalist background. So they're very socialist. Absolutely. Socialist, socially conservative. So they're really against things like gay marriage, women's rights, LGBT rights, and things like that. So there's a lot of people that are quite upset. Theresa May talking about a coalition of chaos in the lead up to this. People are upset to see her now. As soon as it comes to needing to rely on a party that with links to terrorism, it has to be said. She's jumped feet first into it. So people are legitimately concerned, I think. A lot of, wearing my Green Party hat as well, a lot of the DUP representatives have been denying of climate change and denying of science. There's quite a lot of creationists, people that believe God and not science created the world.
Denied the
and I would be terrified if we got into with Trump as well.
Well, he's proven you don't need to be smart to be rich.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you think about Trump's U-turn on the Paris Agreement? Why did he do that? Because he's saying he's putting America first.
Well, it's a crazy decision. I mean, his announcement was that he represents the people of Pittsburgh, not the people of Paris. I don't think he quite made the link that it's not the climate in Paris we're worried about. It's the whole world. That's just where the agreement was signed. So he's done this U-turn and he's pulled out of it for to try and bolster the American economy somehow. But it turns out now that state by state, governors in individual states, like Hawaii was the first, have U-turned on Trump's U-turn, and they are signing back up to the Paris Agreement as individual states.
Okay, they can do that.
Apparently they can do that. They've got some federal freedoms and some.
Because I've heard California's really been high on the environmental sort of. It'd be great if we could do that in the UK maybe as well.
Well, that's at the heart of our manifesto. Yes. I completely agree. Especially, I mentioned this last time, here in the West Midlands, we've got generations worth of expertise in manufacturing and innovation. Birmingham's always been the centre of patents being registered in the UK. If we can avoid our fixation with the finance sector and look back at high-tech precision engineering, the fastest growing sector in the world is low-carbon technology. And we've got some of that with the electric cars, where we're becoming a world leader. But we should be doing it with so many other things. If we were to invest in a kind of Green New Deal, invest high amounts of capital in turning us into a world leader in green technology, we would create excellent jobs. And I think, huge amounts of economic growth. We'd have far fewer people requiring, welfare support. There'd be jobs. It strikes me as daft that our government are too afraid to upset their corporate donors by backing that.
See, what's always upset me the good thing about the green policy is cycling. I'm into cycling.
Yeah.
And it would be great if you've got proper cycle paths here. Because in Germany you've got cycle path away from the pavement for safety for kids, and kids go to cycle to school. Something that can't be done here. You'd see a mountain bike with a buggy at the back with a little flag, and you think the guy's a lunatic. Because he's going to get there'll
be a little bit of green cycle path along the dual carriageway, and then that suddenly fizzle out, and you've got nowhere to go. It's just not thought out. It's such the whole town city's infrastructure is designed completely and utterly around the car. And if you think about it, the car takes up, and the facilities for cars takes up such a massive amount of space, and at the same time causes lots of pollution. There's terrible air quality problems. I think it's 3,000 people a year die from air quality related illnesses just in the West Midlands. 40,000 in the country, which is a lot of people. It's probably people that you know will come into that category. So we've sort of become a slave to the car in this society. Everyone drives to work, drives to the shops, drives to out of town shopping centres, that kind of thing. I mean, I can't see that infrastructure changing that quickly. But I think there will be a quick transition, probably in the next 7 or 8 years, away from petrol and diesel towards electric-powered cars. And things like petrol stations and that will just start to vanish.
See, I've got an electric car as well. It's a plug-in hybrid. So I get 19 miles on electric, and then the engine will kick in, and it's on and off in town. Right. But the problem I have is charging. Like, on a normal street, there's no chargers. The charge points are in town, but then it's they're separate companies. So you pay a monthly fee of $9.99 a month for one charger, $9.99 a month over there. Well, and it doesn't make sense because you're only getting, you're getting 16 miles. Like, for example,
it's just the growing pains now, isn't it?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised about the day because I thought,
it's been around for ages. It's so slow.
Exactly. I thought, is it time to invest in an electric car yet? And I thought, well, I bet there's only about 6 chargers in the whole country. It'd be rubbish. But I went online and had a look, and it was about 12,000.
You can go on zapmap.com. And it's got all the chargers near you. But the problem is you've got thousands of them, but they're all separate providers. It's not one national provider. At the start, it was free. I think EcoCity were free. And then they've increased because I think a lot of Mitsubishi Outlanders, which are plug-in hybrid Jeeps, they were using their chargers, and then other cars couldn't use them.
Oh, right,
What we need to be doing is we need to be sitting down, cross-party, and working out what are our cities going to look like in the future. What is Birmingham, Wolverhampton, what are these cities going to look like? Are we still going to be driving cars in the same way? Are we going to be increasing cycling? And then we need to work out how do we get to that? Because at the moment, just sort of working out what policy is going to get you, what's working well in the next focus group or is going to get you a good front page isn't working. I was talking to a chap from Oslo yesterday, one of the Green Party campaigners, and he was saying Oslo is looking at removing all cars from the city centre, turning all the roads into access for cycling and walking and everything. And he said, and it's increased the air quality, and people are happier and enjoy it. It's a better place to be. Holland have done a lot of it.
After you've been cycling to work or whatever, it's a great feeling. I'm
surprised I got there alive sometimes, though. Because you're cycling around lanes, as you say, with no provision for cyclists, and the British motorist isn't used to cyclists, and they're frustrated by you, and you get the aggression, and it is scary. I wouldn't want my kids to be going out there cycling.
I think every city changes for me. So I live in Coventry, and to come to Birmingham, the office here, the studio here. Coming out of Coventry ain't too bad. Coventry isn't too bad as a cycling town. And you'd go through some villages such as Rowden, Balsall Common, and you'll make your way through to Solihull, which isn't too bad. But as soon as you hit Birmingham is really awful for cycling.
Go along the canals.
With a road bike, you're not going to get hit here in time. You need to do at least 15 miles an hour on the road.
But it's things like public transport. I mean, if you take, say, the Midland Metro that runs from Wolverhampton to Birmingham, that runs every 6 or 7 minutes, and it's jam-packed nearly all the time. So imagine that hundreds of people on every single tram. That's hundreds of people who aren't in cars, who aren't adding to
70 cars.
Exactly, it's not adding to the congestion problem, it's not adding to pollution and all that kind of thing. So why don't we copy that and do more of that as sort of threads into Birmingham from the other side, from different areas into Birmingham, and it just removes so much traffic from Birmingham city centre. It's got to make sense, hasn't it?
Green policy is great, and the infrastructure just really annoys me. So I live in Coventry, and I work in Slough. That's where I work full time. So if I have to commute 2 to 3 days a week, I have to drive now 600 miles.
Wow, yeah.
And it takes me 1 hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours to get there, and Slough's only 85 miles from my house. But there's no direct train. If I want a train, I have to go from Coventry to Reading, then from Reading wait 15 minutes to get a train to Slough, and that's 2.5 hours, and it's going to cost me 60, 70, 80 pounds almost at peak time.
Exactly. I mean, what the government is trying to do at the moment, or the previous government, they want to invest, £50 billion in this HR2 train set, HS2, that will get you from Birmingham to London about 11 minutes quicker than you can at the moment. Why spend that amazing amount of money on just that one project when there's a whole network of trains that need improvement?
I think the reason why they were saying is the cost of doing it on a live network was too high, because obviously they've got the disruptions that they're going to have, and
but if they've got whatever 28 billion or whatever it is to throw at it, we believe that we've got a plan of a far better way of spending £28 billion on improving our public transport.
So what would be the Greens' way of improving?
Well, it's across the board. There's all sorts of different things that need doing. There's no one solution. But yeah, increasing the provision for cycling and walking, extending the metro around the West Midlands, improving train lines. There are so many train lines that are still exist and they're shut that could be opened up again.
That was after the Beeching's report, wasn't
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And now we've got so many more people, so many more cars on the road. The economic arguments of Beeching to shut them down, in the early 20th century are completely disappeared. We should be opening them up and allowing people to get around on public transport, and affordably as well.
Yeah.
And that's why,
you
incidentally,
have to incentivize people to actually want to change their habits.
Yeah.
Because if the easiest thing is to jump in the car and get somewhere, but if parking is a nightmare, if driving is a nightmare, if traffic is a nightmare, and you've got a cheap alternative green option, then just for your own sake, you're going to start doing that.
Well, the problem is with a lot of our railways, our rail network is quite expensive to use. Go to London, it's about 65 quid each way or something like that from Birmingham. Whereas, and that's because ours is under private ownership. Yeah. It's all,
But I think, I know what you're saying. You can get from Birmingham to London, you can go there for £15 return. It just depends on
if you shop online.
If you're not going there for work or anything.
It's a failure of investment, because look at Japan.
Yes.
Japan's got much more people than us, but they've got much better infrastructure.
Yeah, sure.
So if we get some, they say Japanese investors in, let them sort it out for us, because at the end of the day, I just want to see improvement to the lives of the daily people and our country.
But you're not going to get that with a privatised rail system, for example, because it's all about profit then.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, a lot of the owners of our privatised railway system are foreign, nationalised railway systems, like the national French railway system.
Yeah, exactly. So
ours.
we subsidise the French, the German, the system.
So we've only got 2 minutes left now, which time's running out. What I was going to say, so we've got this hung parliament. In your own mind, in the next 2 minutes, what do you think the future is going to be like next 6 months, a year, and what's going to happen with the Brexit deal now?
I think the Brexit deal is hugely compromised. I think the rest of Europe know that Theresa May hasn't got a hope of holding on for the next 2 years. I think there have to be another general election later this year. And I think if we see the Labour Party getting past Corbyn, we're going to continue to have this two-party system. And I think the Labour will win a significant majority.
Yeah, I think if you look at what Jeremy Corbyn's done, I mean, he's been absolutely trashed for the last, 18 months since he came to the top of the Labour Party, even by his own party. But then, as soon as the 6 weeks of the election period starts, where you have to show equal terms to it's the same amount of airtime and no bias towards all the candidates, he's just caught up that massive deficit between Labour and the Tories in no time at all. If they have another general election in the next few months, he's already further up that ladder than he started last time. So who's to say that? When people are hearing these policies, which, let's face it, used to be they still are green policies, a lot of them, and they like them. It resonates with people because it's. And I think he's played a smart campaign, Jeremy, in that he, instead of just using sound bites and catchphrases like strong and stable, he's actually discussed policies that affect people's lives. And I think people are more intelligent than the Conservatives sometimes give them credit for.
But I think the Conservatives now, there would be mad to call another election because they know that it's a likelihood that Labour might get a majority with this.
I don't think they'll have a choice because they won't have a strong or stable government.
No, but if they've got the DUP, they will have to continue as they go on, maybe.
We will see.
Jagmeet, what do you think is going to happen?
I think the British people need to really have their wits about them over the next 18 months. I hope that the politicians start to re-establish and rebuild relationships with the politicians in Europe, because at the end of the day, a good deal is not going to be only a good deal for us, but a good deal for them. So as long as everybody's mutually benefiting, then I think a lot of the surrounding problems that we're seeing are going to disappear, and we can start dealing with them.
Okay, sure. So, Rob, Mark, and Jagmeet, thanks for your time, and viewers, thanks for watching the Politics Show on Sangat TV. Thank you, and goodbye.